Day two of the Karmelo Anthony trial is still focused on jury selection, and the courtroom is already showing how difficult that this case is going to be. Now, today, both prosecution and defense continue questioning potential jurors, and a major focus was on bias, emotions, and sentencing options. Now, the jurors were asked how they would feel about different possible outcomes, including low sentence ranges for unaliving or manslaughter conviction, and whether they could remain fair even if they personally disagreed with those outcomes. Now, several potential jurors expressed that they would struggle with the idea of very low sentences, while others said that they could not separate their emotions from the idea of someone being unalive. Now, a few also admitted that they may already have opinions influenced by what they've heard outside of the courtroom. Now, the judge and attorneys reminded the panel that the defendant is presumed innocent and that the state carries the burden of proof, meaning that the jurors must decide strictly based on evidence presented in the court, not public opinion or on media coverages. Now, so far, there's no opening statements have started, and the court is still working to finalize that jury, which they're going to whittle it down from 600 to 250. And from there, they'll be going through the questionnaires, and then we button it up, and then we should have our potential jury. Now, salute to everybody. Welcome to On Go. I'm Oota. I am shadowing a few people that are covering this trial. And today I'm going to be shadowing Queen Shiba Darling. Make sure you check her channel out. Make sure you subscribe to the Queen and be on go because she's right now boots on the ground. So let's get to some of her coverage and see exactly what she's seeing outside of the court and exactly what she's seeing inside of the court. Let's go.
The Collin County Courthouse, and actually, today was day two, so they have gotten jury selections underway, and each side has 1 hour and 45 minutes. We're talking the state and also the defense. So the state went first this morning, and I want to talk a little bit about the prosecutor. He's good. When I tell you slick, clean, slick as grease, and I mean that in a very positive way. He's very likable. He's light on his feet. He's knowledgeable. He doesn't come across as authoritative. He does a really good job of navigating the jurors, answering the questions that they have. He just feels like a good next door guy, like an all-American guy. He's approachable. He smiles. He's not taking himself too serious. He found ways to really implement just a light tone to this very serious case, right? And he's doing a really good job of presenting himself. He's doing a really good job of managing his relationships with the jurors. So I think I believe the prosecution has gotten off to a really fantastic start. When I looked at the state and their team, you have the main prosecutor, and it looks like there's 4 people on the team from what I can see. The prosecutor himself, which would be 2 men and 2 women. The defense is going to have their 1 hour and 45 minutes after we come back from break. And from what I can see, the defense has 3 people. 1 man, which is the primary defense. 2 men and 1 woman. I did see Karmelo Anthony today. So let me tell you a little bit about Karmelo. And when I
shout out to the Queen. That doesn't sound good for the defense, that the prosecutor is really sharp, sleek, light on his feet, and he has that personality to bring this whole thing together. You know what I mean? So the defense, I think his name is Mike Howard, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check my notes on that. His name is Mike, though, as far as the lead person in the defense. I think they got a lot on their hands with this guy, with this prosecution guy. I'm trying to work on getting his name. I've been looking through some sources trying to discover what his name is and who this prosecutor is, because a few people have been saying that this guy is pretty sharp. So let's get back to Queen Shiba and see what's going on.
To be here in the courtroom. So what I would like to do is give you my view and give you my experience so that you can feel like you are here or you were here with me. So Karmelo is wearing a navy suit today, really nice blue navy suit. His hair is a clean cut haircut, okay? I think when this occurred, he had a different look, but he's a clean cut. He has on a nice soft pink shirt with the blue tie. Now, I'm not in the same courtroom because we're not allowed in there right now. So we're only watching it from like a television screen and an overflow room. He looks well-groomed. He seems very lean. I didn't see him when he stood up, but he seems to be a very lean young man. There were times he did smile when the prosecutor asked juror number 5, did you break the speed limit today? So I did catch him smiling. But let's get into it. So, when I tell you, juror number 142 stated that he would not feel comfortable putting a brother in jail. Those were his exact words. He's saying, listen, there was a lot going on today with these jurors, but juror number 42, he kept it real. And he says, I don't think this is the proper case for me when we talk about fairness. What you're looking for is a fair jury pool. I don't feel comfortable putting a brother in jail.
Juror 142, I appreciate the candor. I appreciate the truthfulness, but maybe you could have been one of those people that could have been there to give a different side to that jury, And this person said that they can't do that to a brother, but I heard also a white woman came up and said the same thing actually too. So we just can't think just because people are white that they're automatically going to be racist or going against black people. You just can't think like that. Look at Diddy's case. This whole jury was really white. You know what I'm saying? There was a few, like a black person, Spanish person, something like that, but it was all white, and he got acquitted of the RICO. He got acquitted of the more serious charges. So I don't know, man, because they said out of all of the jurors, it's like an 80% everybody's white, really, because the town is like a 60-something% white to black ratio. You know what I mean? So what do you expect? But, I appreciate the truthfulness from juror 142, but you could have been someone that was there probably leaning towards his side, but I do appreciate the truthfulness, and we do want to have unbiased jurors, at least as unbiased as you can get. But I just think a lot of people have their minds already made up based on the coverage that they've seen, based on what they've seen on social media. And sometimes it's just very hard to deny that. It's just very hard to deny that.
We have to talk about this. We have to talk about race. Nobody wants to be on this case, right? And race could affect or determine guilt versus innocence. And the prosecutor also stated that in his 31 years of being in law and prosecuting cases, this is his first time ever having this type of conversation with jurors, okay? And he said he's never had this talk before. And he says that it's probably the time to do it in America, to have, this type of conversation, because they need to know how the jurors are feeling about this. Could race play a part in this case? And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to remind you of some statistics. If this is your first time here with me, welcome. But when day one of the trial, I gave you the rundown. Collin County is predominantly 62% white. And the brother, juror number 142, said out loud, I don't feel comfortable locking Karmelo up, right? But then you had other white jurors that followed in his footsteps. Number 24, juror number 24, which was a white woman. She says, I can't do it. He's a kid. I'm looking at him. This is a child. This is what she's saying. She said, he made a mistake. He made a very bad decision. She said, I don't feel comfortable charging a kid and putting him away for life. I just couldn't do it. That's what she said. That was juror number 24. Juror number 198, juror number 199, they shared the same sentiment. Now, if you remember the other day, juror number 199 is the same juror that asked the judge, what happens if we can't agree? What happens if we go into deliberations and we're not able to agree? And remember, I told you, the judge said, you're not going to do that in my court. So then 199 comes back and says, well, you know what? Don't pick me. This is just not a good week for me. So the prosecutor takes over. They're giving the jurors an opportunity to ask questions, to speak to why they would or would not make a great juror, or why they should or should not be. And the prosecutor explained there's two phases, right? There's a guilt and innocence phase. And he said, I kind of like to explain it like a snapshot. Your job is to figure out or to determine, did the state prove that this person committed the crime? That's it in that phase, in the guilt guilt and innocence phase. That's your only job, not the details. Did the state prove that the person, the defendant, commit the crime? He said, then we have the punishment phase, right? That's the photo op. That's where you get the full scope of everything. Who is this person? What is their background? How were they raised? Any trauma, school? Do they have a history of violence? That's when we really get into the details of who they are, right? And in the state of Texas, the punishment phase is 5 to 99 years, but it seems like Collin County, they're asking for 20 years, okay? But there was a lot of conversation today regarding life. Can you consider issuing a life sentence, which takes us to juror number 105. Juror number 105 says, you know, I don't know if I'll be able to sleep well at night being on this case. You know, I have to do what would lead to me being able to have a good night's rest. And I can't promise you that I would be able to make a decision where I can lay my head down and feel good about what I've done, okay? So then she says, can you tell me or give me the definition of beyond a reasonable doubt? The prosecutor says, we don't do that. We cannot tell you that. The state cannot define that for you. As a juror, you have the freedom. As a critical thinker, you have to be able to determine that yourself. By law, we cannot give you the definition of that. So then juror number 142, let's see. Okay, so juror number 142, this was a very, no, not 142. I think it was juror number 41 that says, well, let's talk about race since we're talking about race. And this was a white woman. She says you have to admit that race does play a critical role in the severity of the punishment. So even if we try to take race off the table, it's still on the table. And I think what she was insinuating, she's saying, listen, we're all savvy enough to know that different races receive different punishment based on the color of their skin. And these are, like I said, these are the constituents of this community in Collin County. Again, 62% white. And I think when I say, I'm talking about the entire community, right? So we had over 600 jurors, potential jurors to show up. They were able to eliminate 100 the other day. They're down to 500. So what the judge wants to do is trim it down to half. So 237 is a white woman who's a teacher here in Collin County. She said, listen, I'm an educator. And I believe that you have to be able to separate the behavior from the person. You know, I think she was saying the behavior from the race, but that's what she said. That's what I wrote down. My notes could be wrong, but I think I'm pretty accurate. And then number 34 told, number 34, who's a woman, she said, listen, I have sons. I have always told my sons to defend themselves. So I don't think I'm the right person for this. She says, I have 2 sons. I've raised them well, but you best believe I always tell them, you have to defend yourself. And she said, now, I don't want them using knives or guns. And the courtroom erupted in laughter. But she said, I have always had that talk with my sons. You must defend yourself if you're ever in that type of position.
What I will say is that I love the honesty that is coming out of some of these jurors. This is a really high profile case. I'm telling you, I've been to 1 or 2 trials, you know what I mean? The Diddy trial being one of them. Everybody wanted to be a juror. So much so they were saying, I don't even know who Cassie is. I said, you don't know who Cassie is? The woman that said that, I was just like this. How you don't know who Cassie is? Capavelli, just capping, bro. Doesn't make sense. So you can see this is a high tension, tense case right here. The racial elements to this thing, it's a lot going on here. And a lot of people just don't want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? For whatever their reasons are. People are speaking up and expressing that they don't want to be a part of that. So I do appreciate all of the jurors that came up and spoke out. I appreciate their candor. I appreciate their truthfulness and them saying this. I really, really do appreciate that. because this is one of those cases, man, that you'll get notoriety after it's all said and done. People may want to speak to jurors, never know you could write a book or something like that. This is one of those big high profile cases, but people are actually being honest. And this is one difference that I'm seeing as far as the jury selection process from the Diddy trial and the jury selection process of the Karmelo Anthony trial. That is one distinction that I see straight out the door, straight out the door. So salute to everybody for being honest. Salute to that. That's all we could ask for. All right. We have been hearing a lot about the prosecution. They started the early part of the day with the prosecution going up to bat. Heard the prosecutor was really, really good. Then after the break, the defense has a chance to step up to the plate and see what they can say or what. Now, start to put their energy on this courtroom, start to put their energy on these potential jurors. So let's just kind of skip forward in the coverage and get right to what Queen Shiba seen from the actual defense. I heard the judge called out the defense. So I want to know what the hell happened with that. I know y'all all do too. So salute to everybody. Make sure you're slapping that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bells, and make sure that you're notified when we're dropping new content.
Can y'all see? Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. So listen, let me tell you what I wrote down today. I put, this is going to be a dog fight. We are still in the late stages of jury selection. And I wrote down, this is going to be a dog fight. The defense team was reprimanded by the judge. And I think Mike Howard is a very technical lead defense attorney, right? And you can tell in his delivery today, he came in, a bug. Oh, Lord, McKinney, y'all got these bugs. But listen, I'm under the tree with the bugs. He came in ready to go. And he had to be reprimanded.
And bugs, stop playing me. Stop playing me, bugs. Stop playing me, bugs. My sister coming to give good coverage right here, homie. What's going on with them cicadas, tomatoes, bruh? What's going on? This is what I'm expected to see when I get my ass down to McKinney? Crazy, bruh. Crazy. Let's get back to it, though, y'all. Let's hear how the defense was reprimanded and what the heck did they do in the first place?
I'm under the tree with the bugs. He came in ready to go. And he had to be reprimanded today by the judge. As a matter of fact, the judge called both teams to the bench. The prosecution, the state objected two times during his questioning and his assessment of the jury. Y'all, I was speechless. He literally started to defend the case. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I think he's ready to go. And when the judge said the other day, we want to get this thing done, I think the defense is ready to go. He came in hot and heavy, and I'm telling y'all, this is going to be a dog fight in that courtroom. Now, this is what led to me writing this, okay? At one point, I got my notes, hold on. It was about self-defense and the laws around self-defense. Earlier, I walked you through the prosecution and how they laid out what self-defense is in the state of Texas. Well, the defense gets the opportunity to do the same thing. So the defense shifted their questioning to the jury and began to explain self-defense. And he stated that in Texas, under Texas law, an individual is justified in using force if they reasonably believe that another individual is going to inflict or use unlawfully force on them. So if you believe that during an exchange with me that I am going to use unlawful force on you, according to the defense, I can use unlawful force on you. And I don't have to wait for you to do it if I reasonably believe that you are going to use unlawful force on me. That's one aspect of self-defense. And then they shifted into deadly force. What constitutes deadly force in the state of Texas? Well, the defense went on to say, let's say you were at a public place, and I'm telling you what he's saying. This is what got him reprimanded. Let's just say you're at a public place and hold on. I'm gonna have to use my foot. What's happening? Oh, it's a lot of bugs out here.
Listen, these bugs, the wind, hold it down, Jesus. I said, hold it down, my Jesus. You see what I mean? Too many unforeseen kawinky dinkies going on here. First the bugs, cicada, tomato. Now the wind, homie. Relax. We trying to get through this coverage, okay? We got boots on the ground, okay? And we're getting it from a lens that you cannot get from the legacy media, from the big news programs. These people is stiff. Then people stiff. They can't say certain things. You see how she came out and said, listen, man, I'm gonna tell you straight up, them people is YT. Them people, you know what I mean, ain't looking like this. Straight. A lot of time, the legacy media is not going to talk to you like that. That's the great thing about having independent journalists, content creators that are going to these trials. I'm glad I was a part of the trial I was a part of, to put my own lens on it, to see what I've seen. Trust me, man, I will urge everybody or anyone to get out to cases in your cities, in your states. Even if I could get out to Karmelo Anthony's trial, if you could get there, if you're from Texas, if you're from anywhere close to McKinney, get boots on the ground, man. Get boots on the ground and get out there. Trust me. You're thinking about building a channel, this is how you do it, man. IRL, in real life content, man. And put your lens on it. So you don't have to just listen to what the big media outlets are saying. I want to listen to what you got to say too as well. So shout out to Queen Shiba. Let's get back to her. Make Jesus, take the wheel, Jesus. Protect my sister out there. I don't want to have to run down to McKinney. There's going to be some deadly force around that McKinney. So let's not do it. Let's not do it with Oota, okay? Let's get back to my sister, okay? Hopefully she ain't in a twister because the wind blowing. So we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
So the defense begins to use an example of self-defense. He said self-defense is also justified if you are in a place where you have every right, do you get it, to be there. So let's just say, according to the defense, you're in a public place where you have every right to be there. That qualifies as self-defense. Give me 1 second, because it's a bit windy. So we want to make sure. There we go. Okay. We want to make sure we're good to go. Hold on. It's falling over.
So if I'm in a place that I'm supposed to be there, that also qualifies as self-defense in a way. Yeah, I want her to break this down. I know it qualifies as a sort of alibi. It doesn't show no malicious intent because you are supposed to be at a location, right? So let's see how she break this down and how it got broken down in the court. Let's just see how this.
Both want to say or establish. What he started to do was he started to try the trial and start to establish that Karmelo Anthony had every right to be in that stadium. And although he didn't say it, that's where he was going. So the state said objection, and it was sustained. And then he did it again because he said, let's just say you're in a public place where you have a right to be there, and you're not required to retreat in this public place. And there's an individual that's provoking you, an individual that you feel may use unlawful force on you. Objection, Your Honor, sustained. So the judge reprimanded the defense and said, I need you to reframe your question, right? And the judge did a good job with that. Let me tell you why. Right now is not the time to try the case, but the defense is ready. You can tell he's ready to try this case. I think he's coming out the blocks hot, but the state is ready too, because the state stood up. They were ready to go. They were ready to interject. They were ready to object, and they did a few times in that courtroom today. The defense had a hard time to me. I'm going to say this. when it comes to presentation and being able to articulate your points, I feel the state has an advantage. That's just my personal opinion. I feel the prosecutor did a really good job of articulating himself this morning and really getting in there to ensure that from his perspective, the jurors understand the law that he needed them to understand. I feel like he did a really good job of minimizing any type of confusion. And they didn't have a lot of questions around the law, but that's where I feel the state has an advantage.
Damn. Not a good look, bruh. Not a good look, bruh. Not a good look. I like when both teams is hot. You know what I'm saying? Both are really, really sharp. Because it's a dog fight. Like she's saying, it's like a battle. It's like a battle. So I do like to see when both sides are really, really sharp and on their biz. I like to see that. But it seems like there's an advantage that's going towards the state as far as bringing across your point, as far as making the jurors feel comfortable, as far as, just putting your energy on the court. You know what I mean? It's moving your energy around that courtroom. It seemed like the state got an advantage right there. You know what I mean? So that's not good for Karmelo Anthony in some senses. But what is good that the defense seems prepared and they seem like they're ready to come out the blocks hot and they looking like they want to try this case. They talking about if a person has a right to be somewhere and they're being provoked and they don't have to flee or back down. You know what I mean? And that's basically what happened in Karmelo Anthony's case. You know what I mean? They were all at a place that they were supposed to be. You know what I mean? So it's not like he couldn't be under that tent or under his own tent. It was a big storm that was taking place at this time. So we kind of could see what angles that the defense is trying to aim for right out the gate. So we could see how they're kind of going to start to push their side of the defense, and remember the burden of proof is all on the prosecutors. So the defense don't have to prove nothing. You know what I mean? It's all on the state to prove their case. So there's going to be a dogfight, and I'm most definitely looking forward to this dogfight. But hopefully that's just some little hiccups from the very beginning as far as the defense goes. Hopefully that's some little hiccups, and we don't get to doing that no more, okay? We already seen some objections going on already early in the juror phase. Objections? Come on, bro. You don't even get objections here. You know what I mean? This is just the ground levels, the groundwork. We didn't go into the case yet, but it goes to also show you how much on their biz the state is because they're not trying to let these jurors be contaminated by nothing that the defense is saying, nothing that the defense is doing. So the state is pretty sharp on that. They like this, scratch that, scratch that. Objection sustained. So they're most definitely on their business. So hopefully the defense can bounce back and show us what they're really made of right now. Because Karmelo Anthony is going to need every bit of strength that they have if he's to beat this case. That's just point blank, period.
You can tell. You can tell he's a defense attorney, right? He's technical. He's savvy. He's tricky. That's the word I want to use. He's tricky, not dishonest, but tricky. Because he knows how to get in there and completely disrupt anything or any foundation that the state may try to lay down. He introduced a lot of components, I'm telling you, that completely blew my mind. Things that I didn't know were perfectly legal. Things that you probably didn't know. The question I think that we all have is why would Karmelo Anthony take a knife, right, to a school event? Well, the defense explained. He said, you have a constitutional right in the state of Texas to carry. And the state of Texas grants you the right to open carry guns, to carry openly guns, right? So we're like, yeah, and I'm learning this and I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, you have a right to open carry. He said, did you know, and or are you aware that same law gives you the right or gives way to carry a small knife? Look, tricky, a small knife under 5.5 inches into a public place. I'm like, what? And I'm sure the jury was like, what? So some of the jurors said, we did not know that it's perfectly legal. He said, even if you're a teenager,
Wow.
it is perfectly legal under the same law, just like some of you carry your guns. It's perfectly legal for a teenager to carry a knife, even a teen, into a public place. I guess I consciously, I guess if I think about it, and for those of you that are tuned in, if you think about it, so well, I'll be damned. Huh? Because the moral question that many of us have been faced with is, why did he have a knife, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. But I don't think any of us knew because he could. And it's his right. Because most of us would say, hold on, I don't think I would be comfortable with my teen having a knife in their bag. And that's where the defense points them back to the law. It doesn't matter what we think, right? The law is the law. So then he goes on and he says, do any of you as jurors, or how many of you as jurors would be biased? How many of you think this law is crazy? Now that you know Karmelo Anthony was not acting in a criminal way and that him having a knife is lawful, how many of you think this is crazy? You don't like this law? He said, now that you know it's not engaging in criminal activity, how many of you would still tag Karmelo Anthony as being wrong? Well, quite a few jurors took up issue with that. And one gentleman, I do believe, what juror was it? I'll come to that. Juror number 64 says, I don't care about the law. The fact that he had that knife in his backpack, I would still view him as engaging in criminal activity. And that was juror number 64. He was also dismissed today. Okay, so let me go back to the beginning. The government, according to the defense, they pointed out to the potential jurors that the government has a duty of proving their case. That's not the job of the defense. That burden of proof lies on the government.
Just told you that. I just told y'all that, man. It's all on them to prove their case. The defense doesn't have to do this. The defense does not have to do this. So, whew. But it's legal to open carry a small knife as well as a weapon in the state of Texas. That does change some elements, you know what I mean? Not the actual act that he did with the knife. That's going to be the whole shebang right here. You know what I mean? That's going to be the whole situation here. But him having a knife, I was thinking about that. You know what I mean? New York City's different. You know what I mean? They don't want you to have, like, if you have a knife, you can go to jail for a knife. You know what I mean? Especially if it's like over 4 fingers. The police officers here, I remember years ago, especially when I was younger, the police would take a knife and they would measure it up against their fingers. And if it was bigger than their fingers, you could be arrested for a knife, possessing a knife, you know? So in places like England, just if you possess a little knife like this, you could get a year, 6 months in jail, a year jail sentence just for possessing a knife, because they have higher knife crime there, though. You know what I mean? They have a lot of knife crime there. But him having the knife there wasn't illegal. That's good in his favor. That's actually in Carmelo's favor. You know what I mean? So it's crazy, man. Let's just get back to Queen and see exactly what else happened.
To set it aside. So then the juror said, well, let me ask you a question. Is it up to you or is it up to him to decide if he testifies? The defense said, we make a recommendation, but ultimately it's up to the defendant. It's up to the defendant to decide if they testify. The juror was very savvy. He says, are y'all going to tell us that? Like, if he doesn't testify, are you going to tell us why? Are you going to say he wanted to testify, but I advised him not to? And the defense attorney said, no, we don't give you that information. And that's the thing. You can't make an assumption. That's why we are emphasizing and really, really honing in that you cannot take any biases into the deliberation room with you, and that juror says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it. I cannot put that aside.
They can recommend that you testify during the trial, but it's ultimately up to the defendant if he or she wants to testify at all in the trial. And they don't have to make you privy to that knowledge of why or whatever. They don't have to. But in this case, hopefully his defense is cooking on all cylinders. You know what I mean? I don't know if Karmelo should testify. I know there's no better testimony than his, regardless of who's a witness, because you go into his mindset of how he felt at the time. But if that prosecution is as sharp as not only Queen Shiba, but some people in the legacy media as well are saying, he could shred him up on that stand and get him caught up in his own testimony, make him seem more ways than other, you know what I mean? You could do that, man, and your whole case could fall apart. So that's going to be a big question. Does Karmelo Anthony testify in this trial? And that's my question to y'all. That's my question of this video. Do you think Karmelo Anthony should testify during this trial? Or do you think he shouldn't? Because his story or whatever he feels his story is can get picked apart. No matter if you think you made up a story, no matter if you're talking the absolute truth, you could be talking the absolute truth. And these people that is in that courtroom, be it the prosecutors in the state, they are very good at their jobs. They will pick your story apart and make it seem a whole nother way. That's what they do for a living. You think you smart, you think you got game and the gift, the gab and all of that. Go ahead. When you get in front of them sharks, them prosecutions, them states, they smell blood in the water, bro. You know what I mean? You're just like chum. You've been in some debates. You've been on your debate team in your school. You debated with friends or family members. You maybe got out the right way and said, you know what I mean? Probably they thought you were right. But it's not going to work out like that when you're dealing with top level, premier prosecution. It's not going to work that way. So again, that's my question to y'all of this video. Do you think that Karmelo Anthony should testify in this case? Salute to Queen Shiba Darling for her coverage. Them bugs is all on her. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? The wind. Like Dorothy and them out there, you know what I'm saying? She got twist the wind blowing down the damn GoPro. Like, yo, bro, Jesus, take my hand, Jesus. Take my hand. Protect my sister out there. Back the wind up. You know what I'm saying? And them cicadas. Get them things the hell up out of here. All right? So salute to everybody. Salute to everybody. Hopefully you all dropped a like. Hopefully you're subscribing to this channel and you're hitting the notification bells onto all. I'm going to try to make it down for the second week. You know what I mean? Hopefully that's when the trial's kicking off. I'm going to try. God willing, I'm able to get down there and everything is good back home with me. So I'm able to do that. But regardless of the fact, man, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're subscribing to Queen Shiba Darling because, again, she's boots on the ground. All right? And salute to all my people that's down there at that trial and giving us this coverage and giving us the take from their lens, from their paradigm, letting us get a look inside the court and know exactly what's happening outside and inside the court, man. So salute to everybody. I appreciate all your love, all your support. Subscribe to me on all channels, Oota on Go, on every platform. That's my same name. You know what I mean? Salute to all of y'all. You know, my Cash App, my PayPal, Oota on Go, everything is Oota on Go. So I appreciate all the love that you have showed me throughout the journey of this channel. And yeah, man, I just appreciate all of it, man. I'm just, you know what I mean, sometimes lost for words because I do appreciate y'all all the time. So salute to all of y'all. Oota, 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 always on Go. We'll be back in a minute. Ciao. All my niggas from the Oota, all my niggas turn shooters.